Welcome to Jaunty Haunts, the podcast about all things supernatural. After 30 years of keeping a secret, I'm finally ready to share with the world that I see ghosts. Yep, I've been having conversations with the other side while trying to keep up appearances. This podcast is all about getting spooky and connecting with others who might also sense, see, or feel things beyond the ordinary. We'll swap true tales of the seen and unseen, and maybe even laugh about the weird stuff we've experienced. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, come join me as we explore the paranormal. Let's connect, share, and maybe feel a little less crazy together. Welcome to Jaunty Haunts.
Hi, spooky friends. I hope you loved season 2 of Jaunty Haunts. Rather than vanish into the shadows for a while, I thought, why not keep the spirits alive? So, for the next few weeks, instead of nothing, instead of a silent hiatus, I'll be releasing supercuts of my own true ghostly encounters. Short, eerie episodes filled with personal stories from the other side. Think of it as a haunted holiday gift. Small doses of supernatural suspense to keep you company through the winter. In the meantime, I want to hear your stories too. Send your experiences or voice memos to jauntyhaunts@gmail.com. And if there's a topic that thrills you or something you'd like to help bring to life in season 3, reach out. Collaboration is always welcome in our haunted little corner of the world. Until then, happy holidays, and remember, even in the season of light, shadows linger.
Wow, sorry, this is really fresh. This is kind of hard to talk about, but it's okay. I'll be fine. Okay, so I had been at the ER for close to 18 hours at this point. My pain level was so high that I hadn't slept. So take all of this into account, right? I always do. One of the reasons I really hate going to the hospital, though, and the emergency room is because the things that I see just like triple, right? Right off the bat, I'm seeing a lot more full human body apparitions, and just because of the energy around that everyone is in so much pain, it's so much harder to try and ground myself and shut that out. Anyway, I had been at the emergency room for close to 18 hours, and I hadn't slept, and I was in a lot of pain, and they were giving me a drug similar to morphine. And basically, I was sitting in my bed. My mom was at the end of the hospital bed, and she had her hand on my foot, so I knew that she was there. And, it's an emergency room. There's constant beeping noises, people literally screaming in pain, and it's an emergency room on Manhattan in New York City. It's busy, there's, I don't know, between 100 and 300 people probably in each different wing, and the nurses are spread very thin. So they, you kind of get checked on once every 3 to 4 hours. So finally my nurse came back and she said, okay, we're going to give you another dose of this, painkiller, basically. I said, okay. They put it in my IV, and I went to like another world. It was so strong. It felt different than the previous doses. It felt like someone was almost holding me down on my arms, and I couldn't breathe correctly. I couldn't sit up. I couldn't open my eyes. It almost felt like I was paralyzed, and just like your soul and your head is speaking to you, but you can't do anything else. And I heard my mom at the end of the bed, like on the phone, saying like, oh, I'm so glad she's finally getting some sleep, and that's the thing, I wasn't sleeping. It was just that horrible feeling of I'm awake, but I'm not in control of my facilities. And, and I'm still in pain also. Like the beeping is loud, and this is loud, and that is loud. It's like someone just puts a very heavy, wet blanket over your whole body, and there's nothing you can do to get out from underneath it. So after, I'd say about 40 minutes, I'm laying there and I see this man come over. And again, my eyes are shut. This is all in my mind's eye. this man comes over. He's an older gentleman, and he's in a hospital gown, and it's like he's almost levitating off the ground, and he's pointing at my head, pointing at me like there's something that he's trying to communicate, but I'm in no place or space to communicate with him. But he's pointing at me and shaking his finger in my face, and I just keep saying like, go away, go away. And my mom kind of like, rustles my ankle, and she's like, what? Are you okay? And I'm like, there's a ghost right next to me, and he won't leave me alone. And my mom's eyes get really big because she said that like right before this, that there was someone down kind of at the end of the corridor whose head was like basically code blue, like all his buttons and beepings and everything was going off and going crazy, and everyone had to run to him. And then I said, there's a ghost standing next to me. And it wasn't the same person. Ultimately, the man in the hospital who was having the, code blue, he was an older Caucasian gentleman. And the ghost next to me was an older black man. And he was just kind of pointing at me. So I was like, no, it's not him. It's not him. She's like, oh, okay, But finally, I was able to wiggle enough, and consciously I sat up out loud, not in my mind's eye. I said, go away. And he finally walked away from me. So I laid back down and I said, Mom, I need the doctor. I feel like I can't breathe. They did something different. Come to find out, they had given me about 60% more of the drug than they had been giving me without telling me. So the dosage was a lot more than I was expecting, which is why I was so out of it. Anyway, I'm laying there, and then another man walks up to me. Again, in my mind's eye, my eyes are closed. I just kind of, it's almost like when you're, it's like if you fall asleep on public transportation and you feel someone's bag like hitting you, or if you're on an airplane, you're kind of in and out of sleep and you can feel someone's like zipper on their jacket, like touching your skin. It's like just something, your eyes are closed, it's out of your awareness, but you feel it. That's the closest I can compare it to spiritually. So I don't open my eyes, but I kind of just turn my head, and it's a younger man this time, and he has sort of this like raggedy red sort of like faux leather jacket on, and he's holding a bunch of matches, and he's like pushing them at me, like here, like trying to hand me matches. Now that I think about it, I wonder if there is sort of a spiritual meaning to that, what matches mean. I gotta write that down. I gotta look that up. But yeah, he just kept like pushing these matches at me, and I like took a breath and took all the strength I had, and same thing. I turned, I opened my eyes, and I said, "Get away from me!" And it was like surprised. It was like, oh, he was like surprised, and he kind of like meandered off. And again, my mom was like, what? And I was like, it's just another ghost. She's like, okay. So yeah. And ultimately, we were in that emergency room for 23 hours. And that was a rough one. But that was my two guys bothering me when I was on way too much morphine. All right, story number 2 involves the exact same area, actually, that I had kind of been laying in. Wow, actually, I wonder if these are connected. This is honestly the first time I'm thinking about this. Anyway, well, I'll tell you the story. So the very first night we went to the hospital, which was, for a random pain I was having in my abdomen, which ended up being acute appendicitis. We were laying there. I was laying in my bed, and Jordan was, at the foot of my bed. And the bed next to us, like literally, like could have been touching Jordan's shoulder. She was so close. It was a woman who, based on what the nurses were saying and based on what we were witnessing, was clearly struggling with some sort of substance abuse. And she really slept for most of the time, but she'd wake up and kind of be groggy and start yelling and fall back asleep. But pretty much the minute we got there, we got, adjusted and sat down. And I was on no drugs at this point because they thought I had like a bladder infection or something. They were not taking it seriously. So there were these two spirits, just like shadow figures, right? Ooh, Yeah, I'm sensing something weird. But yeah, they're not connected to the previous one. Very tall, long, lanky, very long fingers, very yucky, tummy curling 2 spirits that were basically just pacing back and forth, looking down at her for the full extent that she was there, and we were there with her. I mean, probably close to 6 to 7 hours. Pretty sinister, and it was kind of affirming, at least for what I've heard in the past about how, drug addiction comes with demons and, certain substances and mindsets and trauma and this and that and whatever. And it makes me think of like the idea of, I believe it's called a tulpa, which is like, a big ball of a bunch of energy and emotion and story and thought that becomes something real. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm also, I'm not really a religious person, so I'm not going to say like they were demons, but they definitely were not good. And they definitely had a hold of this woman. And, her journey ended with basically being taken to a, rehab facility and kicking and screaming, and she had signed that she agreed, and then she forgot, and it was a whole thing. And oh god, I'm getting chills. But by the end, when she was like fully up and awake and aware, they each had a hand on her shoulder, one on the right, one on the left, and they wouldn't let go of her. Even as they literally wheeled her out in a wheelchair, they were on either side of her. That's story number 2. Okay, story number 3. Let's lighten it up a bit. All right, here's a happier hospital ghost story. I've got 5 stories total, so this is number 3, and this will be a very happy one. So this was from last year, actually. I just had like a colonoscopy, and they put you to sleep for that. So, obviously being woken up from any kind of anesthesia is like always a very weird and kind of surreal experience. And it feels like it takes like 3 hours to wake up when it's probably only like 12 minutes. But anyway, I was, coming to post colonoscopy, and across the way, my curtains were pretty open. They were only like closed 25% of the way. And across the way, there was, I don't know if it was like a physician's assistant or a nurse, I'm not really sure. But she was sitting there. She had very cute, like floral scrubs on and like long, beautiful braids, and like just had like a very bright, warm, awesome energy. And she was typing and chatting and typing and chatting. And kind of like this flicker almost, I kept seeing a woman behind her, an older woman with her hand on her shoulder, who was just like smiling. And, based on looks, right, it looked like it was like maybe her mother or her grandmother, but strong maternal vibes. And she just looked like sorry, I'm getting emotional. She just looked like she was so proud of her family, her daughter, her granddaughter, whoever it was. And it was like really special. And I just remember like coming out of surgery, it felt so nice to see like, oh, a good spirit who's just like hanging on and hanging out and was just happy to be there. And I, in my like dumb anesthesia headspace, was trying to talk to the nurse in the room with me, who was like monitoring me. And I was like, Did she just lose her mom? And she's like, what? And I was like, did her? And I'm like pointing like barely with my finger, like, did her, is she okay? And she's like, yeah, she's fine. It's okay. Just breathe, And I was like, no, I'm okay. Is she's mom, did she die? And she's like, what? And I was like, nothing, never mind. Like, I was like, I'm not going to be able to communicate this in any sort of productive way. It's going to come out mumbled, jumbled, and they're just going to think I'm, another person on drugs. So I didn't say anything, but I just kept witnessing. And she just like was with her every step and was like, I remember at one point she pulled out a clipboard and she was like reading over some notes and like looking through some paperwork. And the woman was like literally looking over her shoulder, like reading stuff too, and like squinting. And, then she would like smile and just put her hand back on the the woman. So very cool beyond the grave connection of whoever that woman was. She's got someone on her side, someone on her team who's like very positive, and it was like really, really comforting to see.
Hi, this is Brian O'Connor.
And I'm Michael Duran.
Horror fans, it's time to get your fix with Opening Kill, the new podcast where we dissect everything terrifying in the world of horror.
From the latest movie news to an in-depth look at a feature film and a peek at chilling horrors to come, we've got you covered.
Whether it's gore, suspense, or supernatural thrills, Opening Kill is the ultimate horror deep dive.
Listen to Opening Kill on your favorite podcast platform every Thursday, if you dare.
Okay, so story number 4 is post-surgery. I was admitted to the hospital overnight, and I, had a very cool setup. I had great nurses. It was overall a pleasant time, but a lot of spiritual activity going on. And I want to note that some of these stories are just some of the most clear to explain or most vivid, but like the amount of shadows and energies and things that I'm seeing in a hospital is kind of constant. It's almost like in the summertime by a lake, and there's just like a bunch of mosquitoes all around you. Like that's kind of how going to the hospital is for me in terms of spirits. It's like, God, there's so many fucking mosquitoes over here. But just like a summer by a lake in a hospital, it makes sense, So I'd been admitted, and I was staying the night. I was alone in my room, and I had woken up in between, doses of whatever medication, or I heard a click or something, something had woken me up. And I looked to the right, and there's a man standing in the room. Very clear human spirit presence, like he had kind of like that balding head on top with hair around the side. He had a hospital gown on, and he was just looking at me like so confused and like super, like he just looked really lost. And I was like looking at him back like, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't know. Like, when you're on like opioids, like I just feel like, and again, maybe it's a personal thing, because I know people like do that for fun, but like I feel like I can't work. Nothing works, like I'm just in a cloud, right? So he's looking at me, I'm looking at him. He's looking at his hands, he's looking at his feet, he's looking at his body, he's looking around my room. And then I hear outside my door, like, of course the classic like beep 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 beep, and then all the doctors and nurses on the floor just running. And I put a picture on Instagram, but the door was kind of like that, like shower glass that's like sprayed. So it's like transparent, like you can't see through it. Like there's privacy, but you can see any light and shadow outside. So I see all the doctors go running, and probably about 2 minutes later, he was gone and the beeping stopped. So could it have been a potential little voyage from his body and they were able to bring him back into it? Or was he just finding his way out? I don't know. I'm not sure. It was brief, and he was just confused. And then I fell back asleep. Okay, last hospital story is that evening. And again, if you follow me on social media, you've heard the condensed version of this, but I'm just gonna tell it again for the listeners. So it was after the instance with the man who came in and was lost and, left a couple minutes later. This was more of a strange dream, I'd say, than a true paranormal experience. It was just a weird thing, could have been completely drug-fueled. I don't really know, but I was asleep and I started to have this dream where there were essentially like headstones, gravestones all around the room. And I looked down and I, wasn't in my hospital gown and I didn't look like, shit, frankly. I looked cute. I had like a black dress on and my hair was curled and I looked very different. And My mom was in the room, and she was also like very dressed up and wearing all black. And I like took a heavy breath, a heavy sigh, and she came over to my hospital bed and she grabbed my hand and she like basically sat me up and stood me up. And she said, "It's okay. You don't have to go right now." And I was like, "Oh yeah, no, definitely, like, okay." And we walked, we stood across the room on the other side, and she closed her eyes and just started like taking some deep breaths. So I just like copied her. And then there was kind of this like chill, this like sense of fear, like something is wrong, something's dark, something's bad. And then basically the dream version, the old school version of like the Grim Reaper, sort of like the ghost of Christmas future, you know, came in through the door. And it was tall and hooded and shrouded in all these layers of dark, you know, cloth, kind of bony fingers creeping out, and like the scythe, you know, like the big scythe. And I hope I'm saying that right. The scythe, right? Like the big knife thing. Anyway, he crosses through the room looking at the bed, and the bed's empty, obviously, because I'm not sitting there. And he looks out the window, and then he turns slowly and he exits the room. But it felt like a million years, you know, like how dreams do that. But it was just him walking in and walking out. And I woke up with a start. You know, I woke up like, and I looked over to the door and I just saw this like crazy tall shadow, like I mentioned, outside of the, you know, my room, which is basically like 2 shower doors that were like crystallized. So you see light, color, a little bit of movement, but it's not transparent. Like there's still privacy, but it is, you know, you can see people walking. And I just see this like tall, dark figure pass very slowly across the outside of the door. And I just kind of like laid there staring at that, because at no point did I feel like I'm gonna die. You know, like this is at least the first part of my health issues were very, you know, common. You know, appendectomy, you get your appendix out, it's fine. Things did get worse later in the week, but at least for that, it was like, yeah, this is pretty standard. I didn't feel at any point like I was gonna die, but it could have just been general hospital stress. It could have been all of the actual spirits and death I was witnessing around me, kind of just getting to me, but very interesting dream. Very interesting dream.
Thanks so much for listening. Remember, you are not alone if you've ever heard a bump in the night or caught something out of the corner of your eye. There are countless others who experience things they can't explain. And this podcast is your safe place to listen and share. Also, I want to remind everyone that this show is for entertainment purposes. I am not a professional paranormal investigator. I did not go to school to study this. I can only speak about my first-hand experiences. And with that, I'd love to mark the importance of spiritual inclusion. Your thoughts, ideas, and theories about the other side are welcome. And we know that so much of our common knowledge and perception about the paranormal stems from historical and cultural experiences. So we are open to your knowledge and understanding of things that we may be ignorant about or not fully understand. Let's learn and grow together. Stay spooky, and we'll see you next time. Hey ghoul friends, got a spooky story to share? Well, I want to hear about your haunts. Whether you've seen a ghost or something unexplainable, send your supernatural experiences to us at jauntyhaunts@gmail.com. That's JAUNTYHAUNTS@gmail.com. Or DM us on Instagram at jauntyhauntspod. That's jauntyhaunts_pod. You can also find us on TikTok and YouTube under Jaunty Haunts Podcast. I want to hear from you.
Oh, hey there, listeners. Courtney here with Jaunty Haunts. Sorry to interrupt this paid programming, JK, this programming, to recommend some podcasts that you should listen to and that you should check out. These are creators who I have done some interviews with and spoken with, and their shows are awesome. So, first show is the Red Treehouse podcast. This is your official invitation to join Will in the Red Treehouse, where he'll tell you the creepiest, eeriest, and most terrifying tales to keep you up at night. And along the way, you'll be challenged to consider what you believe. Does the paranormal and supernatural really exist, or is it a figment of an overactive imagination? I mean, we know what I think, but episodes release twice each week and can be found wherever you stream podcasts. It's a scary world out there. Let's explore it together in the Red Treehouse. So guys, check out the Red Treehouse podcast. Another one is Arcane Carolinas. Check out Arcane Carolinas for an informed but fun-spirited look at the verifiable history and science behind stories about ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, and plain old weird stuff. Their research methods have turned up enough surprising information about the origins of lore that the Arcane Carolinas books have been preserved in state archival libraries. Arcane Carolinas is available on all major podcast services. Do you question reality? Are you drawn to UFOs, time slips, premonitions, or the mysteries of consciousness? Then you need to check out the Close Encounters Club podcast. Hosted by Justin Gearhart, a skeptic with an open mind, Close Encounter Club features real people sharing their encounters with the unexplainable. He's joined by his producer Josh, chiming in from Australia with his own curious takes. They also bring on scientists and experts who are actually trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So, if you've ever stared at the sky and felt like something was staring back, this one's for you. Search Close Encounter Club wherever you get your podcasts. Tell them Jaunty sent you. Another one to check out is Opening Kill. Opening Kill is the new podcast that covers the terrifying world of horror films. From the latest movie news to an in-depth look at a featured film and a peek at the chilling horror films to come, Opening Kill has you covered. Whether it's gore, suspense, or supernatural thrills, Opening Kill is the ultimate horror deep dive. Hosted by Brian O'Connor and Michael Duran. Listen to Opening Kill on your favorite podcast platform every Thursday. And also Believing in the Bizarre podcast. Also guys, Hidden in the Shadows podcast, another great one. And just for funsies, just to shout it out there, maybe they'll hear one day, maybe I'll meet them, I don't know. My favorite all-time fun, spooky paranormal podcasts are, of course, Spooked by Snap Judgment, A Funny Feeling podcast with Betsy and Marcy, and Ghosted by Roz Hernandez. So just some fun recommendations for you guys. I love to boost and promote other podcasts that I resonate with. If you want a shout out, please reach out. I'd love to spread the word.